Hi guys, and many thanks for joining me. If you are new to my channel, hi, I'm Kat and I like to talk about crimes, investigations, missing people, conspiracy theories and everything related. Please don't forget to hit that subscribe button below, also hit the notification bell so you are the first one to know about any new videos I upload. And for my subscribers, I would like to thank you so much for your continuous support and for all those lovely comments. Thank you. Today, I want to talk to you about Goncalo Amaral's book, Verdade Da Mentira, Maddie, The Truth of the Lie. But before we get started, here is the disclaimer. I do not mean to be disrespectful to anyone I talk about in this video. The video is for educational and entertainment purposes only, and the information I have in the video is from the internet. I gather all this information together and I compile them in a video. Thank you. Goncalo Amaral's book was launched on 24th of July 2008 in Lisbon. And because it's a very detailed book and I always like to be thorough with my videos, I decided to split this book into two videos. So you'll have part 1 and part 2. Otherwise, this video, I'm afraid, would be too long and you might get bored, so I would rather do that. And guess what? I am so happy to have my hands on his book. There it is. I actually have the book. I managed to get hold of it. Although being in the UK, this book is really hard to come by, and as far as I understand, Goncalo Amaral tried to find a publisher in the UK to publish his book, but no publisher accepted in fear of upsetting the McCanns. The Truth of the Lie is published throughout Europe, but not in the UK. As we know, the McCanns took Amaral to court over his book, and after 8 years of a long court battle, the McCanns were defeated and Amaral won. Allegedly, they did threaten anyone selling his book in the UK with legal action. However, I'm not quite sure if there are really any legal grounds to do this. It is freedom of expression, freedom of speech, and this is precisely how he won the libel case. Now, before I dig into the book, I just want to say how sorry I am for Goncalo Amaral. The McCanns, they did everything possible to destroy his life and his reputation, and this man dedicated himself day and night into investigating what happened to Madeleine McCann. He stayed away from his family, he stayed away from his kids, and this is how he's repaid. Not only that, but the McCanns wanted Amaral and his wife Sophia to execute a separation of assets so that Amaral would have enough goods to pay up damages claim. And this meant that Amaral and Sophia would have to separate, but obviously they both refused. In July 2009, the injunction requested by the McCanns to Amaral Books was granted. And at the time, Maddie's parents got his book authorship, half of his retirement pension, and his share of a rural house in Ohio. Now, as far as I understand, but please don't quote me on that, Kate and Jerry McCann, as it seems, still have around 3,000 copies of Amaral's book, which they still haven't released back to him. I mean, I read this somewhere. I didn't look too much into it, so honestly, I'm not quite sure if it's true or not. The book, I have the book. Now, let's jump to the book. Ready? The book starts off in February 2008, 9 months after Maddie's disappearance. Goncalo Amaral receives a phone call from Alipio Ribeiro, and he tells Amaral they were premature in making the McCanns arguidos. Amaral is really surprised. I mean, Ribeiro, he knew from the beginning about the decision and he did agree. So now he's wondering, is Ribeiro planning to end the investigation? Goncalo Amaral had a feeling the investigation was dead from the day he was removed, and his feeling only intensifies with the National Director's statement. And now I want to read to you a quote from the book. I feel it. With that television statement, the National Director has the intention of preparing public opinion for the inevitable. That is to say, the end of the investigation and the closing of the case. During the investigation, the Portuguese police, they actually welcomed the help of the British police, so much so that the PJs, they had a crisis room and a room next to it for the British police. But more weird was the fact that as soon as the McCanns were made arguidos, they left Portugal, and with them all the British police officers in Portugal. It does make me wonder that this was not so much about Maddie, but really more about the McCanns. It seems that as soon as the McCanns left Portugal, the British police didn't seem interested anymore in the investigation or in finding Madeleine in Portugal. Like, you know, they would say, oh, you know what, they are leaving. We can go now as well. We protected them, they are safe, and they will be safe in Britain, so there's nothing else for us to do here anymore. This is how it seems to me, really. This case should have been simply about a missing child, but it turned into questioning the Portuguese justice, the PJ, and the cooperation between two countries that share one of the oldest alliances in the world. And now I'm going to read you another quote from the book. I love this book. For me, the investigation came to an end on October the 2nd, 2007, the date on which there seems to have been a new English ultimatum. Incidentally, on the same day that the Treaty of Lisbon was being discussed. The Treaty of Lisbon. Politics. That's interesting. But was it coincidence? Really, in my opinion, I think this is highly unlikely. Gordon Brown took part in that Treaty of Lisbon discussion in October 2007, and I really do believe that it all started with him. The McCanns were made suspects, and obviously someone had to stop the investigation and save their asses. And who better than their friend Gordon Brown, right? I am going now to give you a brief history of the Lisbon Treaty, which will help to put in context the Gordon Brown connection. The Lisbon Treaty started as a constitutional project at the end of 2001, European Council Declaration on the Future of the European Union, or Laeken Declaration, and was allowed and was followed up in 2002 and 2003 by the European Convention, which drafted the treaty establishing a constitution for Europe. The process leading to the Lisbon Treaty is a result of the negative outcome of two referenda on the constitutional treaty in May and June 2005, in response to which the European Council decided to have a 2-year period of reflection. Finally, on the basis of the Berlin Declaration of March 2007, the European Council of 21st to 23rd of June 2007 adopted a detailed mandate for a subsequent intergovernmental conference under the Portuguese presidency. The IGC concluded its work in October 2007, and the treaty was signed at the European Council of Lisbon on 13th of December 2007 and has been ratified by all member states. And here is another thing. José Sócrates, Prime Minister of Portugal, at the time acted as a president in office of the Council of the European Union for the second half of 2007. In October 2007, a 2-day European summit is taking place in Portugal, where Gordon Brown and José Sócrates are both present. They talk briefly about Madeleine McCann's case, and they agree there should be the closest possible cooperation between Portuguese and British police in the investigation. Earlier in July, however, Gordon Brown thanked the Portuguese premier for his help in the search for Madeleine. Now, that's that. That's done with. But let's say, hypothetically, yeah, Gordon Brown is pressuring Socrates into stopping the investigation, into stopping the police from considering the parents suspects. And keep watching, because this will get even more interesting. Goncalo Amaral was removed from the investigation and he was replaced with Paolo Rebello. In the media is mentioned that he got removed because of his criticizing of the British police. According to Amaral's book, however, something else happened. Monday, 1st of August 2007. In the evening, Amaral, while driving, receives a call from a private number. The journalist on the line is asking him to comment on the subject of the email he received the same day at work from the officials, check this out, from the officials at Buckingham Palace, to inform them that a little girl, Madeleine, has disappeared from a hotel complex situated in Lisbon? That's what the email said, situated in Lisbon. So Amaral receives this email in August, 2 months after Maddie's disappearance, from Praia da Luz. But why say that the girl disappeared from Lisbon? I mean, I think that if officials at Buckingham Palace, which I think that it was from Prince Charles' side, that email from officials from Prince Charles. Anyway, let's get back to it. I mean, if officials from Buckingham Palace do send an email to the police, one would assume they would have the facts right before sending it, right? So this is really weird. So according to them, Madeleine disappeared from a hotel in Lisbon. Tired after a really hard day at work, driving in a raging storm, Amaral loses his cool on the phone with the reporter. And he replies that the message is of no interest and that it would be better for the English police to occupy themselves with the Portuguese investigation. And then he hangs up the phone. As soon as he finishes the conversation, he realizes the mistake he's made, and this would cost him his career. Amaral realized he spoke unfairly of the British police, and he is at this point quite certain he triggered a diplomatic incident, and as soon as his words are made public, he risks not being able to direct the investigation. And he's right. He is right. But let's get back to the previous night. This will prove really interesting. During Saturday night, his dog was very agitated and this dog wouldn't stop barking. And now I want to get back to a quote from his book. I made so many notes here. Look, it's all scribbled. All scribbled. And I'm gonna try to find now the quote I was going to read for you. I don't actually have any system for organization, unfortunately. I need to find one. Oh, there it is, finally. During the night of Saturday into Sunday, please pay attention to this because it's really important. Our dog does not stop barking. I go out, but I see nothing and nobody that could get him so worked up. He then howls by the door. I don't know what's going on, but being on my own with my daughter, I won't say her name, sorry, but Amaral mentions her name in the book, but I don't want to say her name, so I'm just going to refer to her as his daughter. I decide to stay close to her indoors and not let my anxiety show. The next day, I still don't understand what could have upset the dog so much. My daughter, anxious, wants at all costs to see the neighbors, but they haven't returned. So he is with his daughter in the house, in the same house where she was born in, with which she does have quite a special connection, and she also loves being there. She also loves spending time with her neighbors, a retired couple who found their peaceful refuge there. On Saturday, throughout the day, she keeps going to knock on the neighbor's door, but they are not home. On Monday evening, after the whole reporter conversation blunder, Amaral gets home at last. He visits his neighbors and he realizes why his dog was so agitated during the night. His neighbor's house has been broken into. What's weird is that the thieves left a lot of valuable objects behind and nothing was missing, apart from a briefcase which contained documents. This is so strange. And Amaral says in his book, deep down, I can't help thinking that perhaps they mistook their target. And honestly, since I've been reading that, I've been thinking about the same thing as well. Can it really be a coincidence that his neighbor's house is broken into and only a briefcase of documents is stolen and everything else valuable is left behind? It is quite possible that the target was actually Amaral's house and they wanted the briefcase of documents that he has. But in regards to what, really? Maddie's case? And if that's the case, then someone must have seen Amaral's briefcase and someone must have known he would take it with him at home. But then, as more as I think about it, it must have been someone active in the investigation or someone in close proximity to Amaral on a daily basis. Someone who was close enough to be able to see all the goings of the case day in and day out. Someone who was maybe placed to keep an eye on the whole investigation. What do you guys think? Is it just a coincidence that his neighbor's house was broken into? Please let me know your opinion in the comments below. The next morning, after Amaral's heated phone conversation, he sees on the front page of the newspapers the same phrase he came up with on the phone with the reporter, which was then transformed into a long interview, typical of the press really. In the same afternoon, at around 2 p.m., Amaral receives the news. And those are not good news. And I will refer back to the same book of Amaral's. The national director has sent a fax to the Portimao DIC. In it, he stipulates the end of my assignment and requests my return to Faro. Today, October the 2nd, is my 48th birthday. This is not the present I wanted, but one that I was expecting. Basically, this brings to an end a campaign of defamation and insults that I have been the target of since the start of this case. The whole thing orchestrated and amplified by the British media. The strategy is simple: call into question the investigation and those who lead it, and at the same time present Portugal as a third world country with a legal system and police force worthy of the Middle Ages. And wasn't he right? Because this is what's been in the news always about the Portuguese police, that they are not able to carry on the investigation, that they have not been doing anything. Yeah, he was right. Portuguese police was portrayed in the media, in the news, everywhere around the world as incompetent. And according to a British correspondent, the Prime Minister Gordon Brown personally called Stuart Pryor to ask for confirmation of Amaral's dismissal. How curious this is. Why would the British Prime Minister be interested in a Portuguese official? There's plenty of rumors going around, according to Amaral, that signing the Treaty of Lisbon was dependent of his dismissal. This is something to think about. And in a way, I really think that these rumors, they are more than just rumors. So let's get back to José Sócrates. We know that he was the Prime Minister of Portugal at the time of Maddie's disappearance. And in the same year, for the second half of the year, he also became President in office of the Council of the European Union. This role is assigned on a rotational basis, the President being changed every 6 months, until later when there would be a decision to keep the same President for a full term. And this is taken from Wikipedia. From 1975 to 2009, the head of the European Council was an unofficial position, often referred to as the President in Office, held by the head of state or government of the member state holding the semi-annually rotating presidency of the Council of the European Union at any given time. However, since the 2007 Treaty of Lisbon, Article 15 of Treaty on European Union states that the European Council appoints a full-time president for a 2.5-year term, with the possibility of renewal once. Appointments, as well as the removal of incumbents, requires a double majority support in the European Council. After the discussion of the Treaty of Lisbon took place in October, it was officially signed on 13th of December 2007 in Lisbon, Portugal. Representatives from 27 member states were present and signed. But check this out. There is always something there. Prime Minister Gordon Brown was not present to sign in the main ceremony. He only signed a few hours later after the other delegates. Now he says that he couldn't be present because he was required to appear before a committee of British MPs. My honest opinion, however, I think, and it's my opinion, I think he blackmailed José Sócrates or pressured him, whichever word you want to use. Brown probably told him in those conversations they had about Maddie's case in October that if he doesn't drop the investigation, or more likely the investigation into the McCann's guilt and suspicions, Brown won't be signing the Treaty of Lisbon. Simple. That's all he needed to say. It's quite possible, and this can also explain why he didn't sign at the same time with the other delegates. Brown seemed to be reluctant in signing. He was probably waiting on Sócrates to do what he's told, waiting on proof that really it was done. Needless to say, there were politicians not very happy with the way Brown handled the signing of the treaty. Oh, quite honestly, I wouldn't be happy either. He behaved like being above everybody else, like it's a true privilege having him to sign this treaty. But I think that was just a show. I think he indeed had a hidden agenda, and I really do feel that this was Maddie's investigation. Monica Frassoni, an Italian politician, states in a debate held on 18th of December 2007. On the subject of the Treaty of Lisbon, I think that what Prime Minister Gordon Brown did was a scandal, and the way he treated all of you and also all of us, I think, was equally scandalous. We are moving on to chapter 2, the holidays of Madeleine Beth McCann. Chapter 2 in Goncalo Amaral's book takes us to the beginning of Maddie's holiday. They arrive at Faro around 2 p.m. They take the minibus to travel 70 kilometers to the Ocean Club Resort in Praia da Luz, not so far from Lagos. They are accompanied, as we all know, by the Payne family, Diana Webster, Fiona's mother, whilst the other members arrive earlier at around 1 p.m. David Payne is the organizer of this trip. The couples have spent their holidays together for quite a few years. Whilst Kate was pregnant with the twins in January 2005, they stayed in Lanzarote in the Canaries. In September 2003, the McCanns and their friends Matthew and Rachel Oldfield, Russell O'Brien and Jane Tanner spent a week in Umbria, Italy, to attend David and Fiona's wedding. In September 2005, Kate, Jerry and their 2-year-old daughter Madeleine went to Majorca, in Spain, for a few days with the Paynes and other friends. On arrival at the Ocean Club, the group is assigned the apartments, as we all know. Apartment 5A, Kate and Jerry McCann with Madeleine, Sean and Emily. Then apartment 5B, next to apartment 5A is Matthew Oldfield and Rachel with their child. Apartment 5D, just like 5A and 5B, also on the ground floor, Russell O'Brien and Jane Tanner with their 2 kids. Apartment 5H, which is on the first floor, David and Fiona Payne with their kids and Diane Webster. The resort complex is not a private area. The various buildings are spread throughout the village. The roads are public. Some of the properties are separated from each other by 2 kilometers, as is the case with the Millennium Restaurant. There's no CCTV or private security, and access to the leisure areas is not controlled either. You need to please keep this in mind, and remember, there is no CCTV or private security, because this will prove very important further on in the video. Now, what I want to do is I want to read a paragraph from Amaral's book, which I find quite interesting and will also help us make sense of the surroundings and topography of the place, if you will. If you take the road that links the Luz Church to the beach, you notice on your left the ruins of the Roman thermal baths. Through their cellar run numerous tunnels, which for more than 50 years have been used by children to reach the beach. Okay, so considering it's me, and if I would be reading too much into this, I would say that those tunnels, they are still accessible, right? The children use them to reach the beach. But what if this area was used to hide a body or bury a body? This makes me wonder. It does. The McCanns and the group have a routine put in place. At around 9 a.m., children go to the crèche. At around 12:30, parents pick up the children for lunch. Then at around 2:30 in the afternoon, children are going back to the crèche, and then at around 5:30 they are being picked up from the crèche. At around 8:30 in the evening, parents meet for dinner at the tapas. Children stay alone in the apartment sleeping. What a relief for the parents. Seeing this routine again, I can't help it, and I have to say, really, I do have to say, and I think I'm just gonna repeat this over and over and over. These children are left with strangers 80% of the time, on a holiday which is supposed to be a family holiday. I cannot understand for the life of me how these parents would think that this is okay. They should have just left these kids back in the UK. If they wanted time for themselves, they just shouldn't have brought the kids with them. So, from Sunday, the 29th of April, Madeleine won't be going back to the Millennium Restaurant, probably because it's quite far and the parents have to carry the twins there and back. So from this point onwards, the breakfast is taken in the apartment with the family, with stuff they bought from the Baptista supermarket. I wonder if this is the same supermarket where allegedly Kate was spotted buying cleaning products and bleach. I can't really still get my head around that, really. If that would be true, why would someone on holiday buy cleaning products? That's just beyond me, really. There's a reason it's a holiday resort. I mean, really, you're on holiday, you don't clean. At least that time when you're on holiday, you don't need to clean. The cleaners, they clean the apartment for you. So, again, it doesn't make sense. On Tuesday, May the 1st, Madeleine cries for her dad for more than an hour in the company of her brother and sister. Back in the UK, Maddie's parents, they have a medical chart for Madeleine with her sleep issues, where she would wake up every few hours in the night, so she did have an issue with her sleep. But this will be revealed later in the book in more detail. So, let me ask you this. Although the parents said the sleep issues have been rectified, which I don't believe for a second, why leave your kids alone to sleep, especially Maddie, when you know that she has issues sleeping in a foreign country, in an unfamiliar place, where she could wake up at any time and wander off? Even more interesting, why was Maddie the only one crying but not the twins, if they were in the same room? Surely a toddler crying constantly for more than an hour, even heard by Miss Fan, the neighbor from above, would wake up the twins being in the same room. And logically, they would wake up scared of the crying and then they would cry as well. It's just what toddlers do when they are not happy with something. They cry. So why didn't they wake up as well? Thinking. And what if, for example, Kate was in the apartment and that's why Maddie was crying? Did she do something to Maddie to make her cry like that for more than an hour and cry for daddy for help? And maybe the twins didn't cry because she was there comforting them, but not Maddie. Let me tell you something. A child doesn't cry for no reason for more than an hour. That's pretty sure. And I'm also sure, in my opinion, that something definitely happened there that night. Something happened there. Thursday, the 3rd of May. Kate picks the 3 children up from the crochet at 5:30 p.m. and they head for the apartment. But we also have to remember what Amaral said. There was no CCTV, no surveillance, and no private security. Which makes me wonder this. Did Kate really pick Madeleine up on Thursday from the crochet? Was it Madeleine that she picked that day? Amaral receives the news of the child's disappearance at midnight, and before heading home, he makes sure to call the police on duty to check all the urgent measures are underway. The head of the guard already alerted the police authorities at Faro Airport and the control post set up on the Guadiana Bridge, the river on the frontier between Portugal and Spain. And this was all done on the same night of Maddie's disappearance, regardless of how the British media is portraying the incompetence of the Portuguese police. But the reports leave a lot to be desired. A concise report by the investigator and the forensic police is accompanied by a lot of photos taken inside and outside apartment 5A. A lot of people were already there and in place, but strangely enough, there were no people in the photos. And the report also mentions the twins were asleep in their cots. But there's no evidence of that. If you look at the photos, you can see the empty cots, and literally empty, with only the mattresses on. They don't have any sheets, they don't have any blankets. They have been removed. They've been removed. But yet the police officers report the twins were sleeping in their cots. Which makes me question this again, and yet again I question it. Have the twins been put in their cots before the police arrive so that they see the twins are sleeping there? So that the version of the events makes sense, the versions they've been telling to the police. This is so weird. On the same night, arriving home, Amaral makes tons of phone calls and sends a message to the director of Faro Department of Criminal Investigation. The police response is fundamental. The first 72 hours are essential. On the 4th of May, Amaral realizes something's not right in the account of the events. At this point, he wants to know everything. And I'll jump on the book again to read you a paragraph from there. We need information about the parents and their friends, to know who they are, what they do, if they have problems in their country, if the children were victims of abuse, if the family, neighbors, friends could have noticed any suspicious behavior, what are their jobs, if they work full-time, etc. Is any member of their family depressed or suffered from depression in the past? Do the couple maintain good relationships? Are they implicated in serious litigation? Do they have any enemies? And for what reason? So now Amaral calls Glenn Powers, the English liaison officer in Portugal, to inform him of the events and to request response to their requests. Chief Inspector Tavares de Almeida, since dawn, is following through with the first measures taken. He should have been going on holiday really, but with the severity of the situation, he decides to put it off. All the Portuguese police is on alert. The Interpol is as well. The National Guard, supported by civilians, started with the searches. The examination of the scene was carried out in difficult circumstances. When the police arrived there, a lot of people were coming and going, friends, family, employees, including dogs and the National Guard. The scene might have been contaminated, and at this point, Amaral is wondering if the contamination was in fact done on purpose. CCTV cameras on motorways, including one leading to Lagos and another linking Lagos with Spain, will be viewed, along with any recordings from hotels, banks, pharmacies, supermarkets, service stations. So everywhere they can find CCTV, they will have a look at it. The Spanish Customs Service is being asked to be vigilant at the two ports with links to Morocco, Tarifa and Algeciras. They make contact with the marinas and the maritime police. They also need video recordings and registers of boats entering and leaving in the last few days. So in fact they check everything. This is how incompetent they are, as the British media is saying. And check this out. At 10 in the morning, 12 hours after Maddie's disappearance, the British consul to Portimao visits the Department of Criminal Investigation. He is informed of everything, including the next stages considered, but he doesn't seem satisfied. Someone hears him talking on the phone, saying the judiciary police have done nothing. What a blow. What a blow, really. But the question is, why is he lying? What is he hiding? For what purpose is he saying that, really? Is he trying to discredit the police from the beginning? That's really strange. Goncalo Amaral and his team are not getting any information from Great Britain. No reports on the McCanns, their children or their friends, which is not helping at all. And now I want to go back to this beautiful book with another paragraph. We would like, for example, to know if Madeleine was adopted by the couple, which would allow us to eliminate the hypothesis of parental abduction. If the information is not reaching us, it's obviously reaching the British ambassador. We are astonished by this prompt mobilization of the English authorities. So, who are the McCanns? Who are their friends? We don't need diplomatic intervention. What we would like is answers to the questions sent to the British police authorities by Glen Power, which obviously were not received. The search continues. With the help of a helicopter, interviews of holidaymakers and resorts employees multiply. The Deputy Director of Faro Judiciary Police joins Amaral and the team, and they go to check on the operations, where they are met with media en masse. A lot of media. It seems that the McCanns' friends reported Maddie's disappearance to the press before they reported to the police. Of course they did, of course. Now let's have a look at the TAPA statements and the first inconsistencies on May the 4th. It's important to question everyone, separate them and take the statements all at once in case Maddie's abduction was a mistake and possibly another child was the target. Logistically, however, they can't all be heard at once because someone has to stay with the kids. But again, why not use the crochet until the questioning is done? I mean, they've been using the crochet for the twins even after Maddie's disappearance, so now why not use it on that occasion? If it helps the investigation, right? But no, of course, if it doesn't help them, then, you know, it can't be done. The morning of 4th of May, only Jerry, Jane Tanner and Matthew Oldfield are interviewed, and inconsistencies already arise. Jane sees possible abductor. Jerry doesn't see abductor, although he's there at the same time with Jeremiah. And the rest of the group is interviewed in the afternoon of 4th of May, giving too much time for the others to learn the questions or answers of the first. And the translation is not helping either. It gives them too much time to come up with the answer. The parents, at this point, they insist on the abduction and they even force this idea. And some other inconsistencies here, as we all know them already, but I feel like they need to be told again. Jerry says he left the front door locked and the apartment was secure. Kate says she entered via the back door. She confirms that the bedroom window was wide open and the blinds up. The checking was defined as follows. At 21:05, Jerry McCann checks. All is fine with the children. Between 21:10 and 21:15, Jane Tanner sees the alleged abductor carrying the child. At 21:30, Matthew Oldfield enters apartment 5A, but not the bedroom. He only sees the twins. At 10 o'clock in the evening, Kate raises the alarm. Madeleine is missing. But, question. If the window was wide open when Matthew Oldfield checked, how did he not notice? How? Matthew Oldfield says the bedroom door was half open. Kate says it was wide open. And unexpectedly, some more inconsistencies arise. Kate, when she talks about the person who allegedly took Madeleine, she refers to information that Jane has provided. Yet, at the same time, Kate describes someone completely different than Jane's person. Jane says light trousers and shoulder-length hair. Kate says long hair and jeans. Jane makes herself completely available and testifies several times. To the police, Jerry says Jane told him about midnight May the 4th, that she saw an unknown individual, 30 to 40 years old, light trousers, dark hair, going up the street. The GNR affirms that the parents immediately raised the abduction theory because Jane saw this man carrying a child. The GNR statements have this description: man, light trousers, 1.78 meters height, dark shirt, and carrying a child that appeared to be wearing pajamas. Nothing else about the child, pajamas, or the man. By 11:30, 4th of May, Jane is already giving another description, more detailed this time. A dark-skinned man, between 35 to 40 years old, thin, 1.7 meters tall, dark thick shoulder-length hair, linen trousers of beige or gold color, a duffy type of jacket, though not as thick, with classic shoes, walking quickly and carrying a child laying across his two arms in front of his chest. By his dress, he didn't look like a tourist and didn't seem like a tourist because he was so bundled up. The child appeared to be sleeping, though she only saw the legs. The feet were bare and the pajamas looked like cotton, a light color, maybe white or pink with a design perhaps, though she wasn't sure, perhaps with flowers. Jane says she would recognize the man from the back and by the way he walked. Jane's testimony surprises everyone. She said she didn't know what Madeleine was wearing, but how could she not? 14 hours had passed since the disappearance and Jane's version had been heard by many. Even Gerald mentioned her testimony, but Jane says she only talked to Gerald without giving any details and only after she had talked to the police. But Kate had immediately on the night of 3rd of May given a description of what Madeleine was wearing. Then how could Jane the next day not know this when she talked to the police? Oh well, I'll tell you why. In my opinion, they didn't get their story straight from the beginning and she kept on, going around. She kept on making mistakes, Jane, and then she kept on rectifying those mistakes so that the mistakes would match with their line of events. Yeah. Everyone that night who helped in the searches was looking for a 3 to 4 year old girl, barefoot, dressed in PJs, with a top and light colored bottoms, with a pink animal design. It's very surprising at this point that Jane says she didn't have this information when she spoke to the police the next day, especially as she was making herself the most important witness in this phase of the investigation. I'll tell you what, without her statement and without her being such an important witness, there wouldn't be any theory of the abduction because no one would have seen the abductor. So Jane's role, in my view, was very important to keep the story together. Friday, the 4th of May, at 8 p.m., Amaral walks around Praia da Luz to take note of the activity in the village at dinner time and to check the street lighting. He stays there until around 10 p.m. and it's noticeable, although with police officers and journalists there is very little movement, and the place where the abductor was, according to Jane's statement, is dimly lit. So how did Jane manage to describe him so well? The streets were deserted. So why would the abductor walk around like that at the risk of being seen? If indeed the abduction would be planned, then he would surely take the time to study the surroundings, the topography, the habit of the family, and if he wasn't from that place, then he would probably come by car and hide it in a dark corner. But the darkest area is situated in the opposite direction to that indicated by Jane Tanner. So did she really see the man going towards east? Wouldn't he rather be going towards west to reach the road running west out of the village towards Sagres and east toward Lagos? And then there's also another question. According to his statement, Jerry went in his apartment through the front door. But why? When the back door is closer to the restaurant and doesn't need a key. The parents keep saying the back door was visible from the restaurant and no one could walk without being noticed. But according to Amaral, that's not true. And I'll refer again to his book and I'll give you a quote from there. But that's false, as we were easily able to verify. At night, with the surrounding vegetation and the opaque plastic tarpaulin that protects the dining room of the restaurant, visibility is nil. Anybody could have got into the McCann's apartment without being noticed, particularly as most of the guests had their back to the apartment. So this shows how important it must have been for the McCanns to get their story straight. Although they were not facing the apartment, they were saying they were facing the apartment, so that their story makes sense and so that they are deemed like the responsible parents and always checking on the apartment. Saturday, May the 5th. Throughout the day, apartments are visited in the resort and surrounding area. Investigators search more than 400 apartments with no results whatsoever. At this point, the McCanns are living with the pains. Amaral wants to search the accommodation of the family friends to try and get Madeleine's clothes, especially what she was wearing on May the 3rd at 5:35 p.m. when she returned from the day center with her mom and the twins. But this option is not supported. The British ambassador meets with the team directing the investigation, and it seems the political and diplomatic people really are trying to prevent the PJ from doing their job. Amaral didn't find it normal at all that parents of a missing child would engage press attachés to deal with their relations with the media. Well, I have to say he didn't find it normal because it's just not normal. I don't find it normal either. Are you concerned in finding your daughter or how your image is portrayed in the media? Seriously, this was not a thing about finding Madeleine anymore, in my opinion. On the 4th of May, the parents allowed the PJ to check their phone calls. And there is a reason why they did that. I've already covered this in my previous video, but I found something else which I don't think I mentioned previously. And it's quite interesting, so check this out. On Kate's phone, Jerry's number is logged. She called him on May the 3rd at 11:17 p.m. But on Jerry's phone, however, there is no record of the call. How surprising is that? This to me is a clear indication that calls have been deleted, in my opinion, obviously. I don't find that there can be another explanation. In my opinion, I don't think that he could have deleted all those calls by mistake. No, it's really hard to believe that, really. Amaral and his team, they considered the possibility to tap the couples and their friends' phones in the hopes of getting more details. However, later they realized the English Secret Service already placed their calls under surveillance. If that was indeed true, the Portuguese police was never informed. Amaral and the team are getting information about someone in Sagres caught in the act of taking photos of a few children on Maretta Beach. In particular of a girl aged 4 with blue eyes who looks just like Madeleine. Her dad noticed that, and he is saying his photographer tried to kidnap his daughter on the 26th of April in Sagres. He allegedly left in a hired car with a woman. His description reminds us of Jane Tanner's statement. Very surprising. The police manages to track the hire car and get information about the photographer. He's Polish and traveled to Portugal with his wife. Sadly, they left on the 5th of May, taking with them their camera. Amaral asks the German police through Interpol to monitor them as soon as they arrive in Berlin. But in the end, nothing came of it. And I will end this video with a quote from the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of the Child, 1959. The child shall, wherever possible, grow up in the care and under the responsibility of his parents, and in any case in an atmosphere of affection and of moral and material security. Alright guys, this is it for today's video. Many thanks for watching, and I mentioned at the beginning of the video, but I want to remind you again, I've decided to talk about Amaral's book in 2 parts, as I usually like to be really thorough. So this video was part 1, and please don't forget to subscribe. If you are not subscribed, hit the notification bell, and then you will know when part 2 will be published. Thanks again for watching guys, take care and stay safe, bye bye.